let's start with extinction, which is what a lot of people like to talk about in this channel. And then we'll continue with a little bit of the review of the month and finally with the questions.
Extinction's a popular subject.
Yeah, it is. It is. People, I think, are concerned with extinction. In the last, I had one of the lectures in the past where I discussed the fact that, in the last 50 years, maybe after World War II, the number of books written on extinction of man, right, and movies and etc. has just, blossomed. And the issue there is whether it's just a fad, or whether people have a sixth sense that something is not right, which is my take on that. Okay, so just to consider. Okay. Anyway, let's start with the first question that someone asked here. We'll drive it with that. And the fellow says, "What is money? Do you have your own definition?" What is money? Well, money looks like that. See, that's 100 pesos in Argentina. But I went to a store, 7-Eleven store in the United States, and gave them that, and they called the cops on me. They said, "Give us our stuff back." They didn't like that. So money is not money. And I said, "Well, why are you arresting me? I mean, this is legal tender in Argentina." And they said no, they would not accept it.
You ain't in Argentina, boy.
And this is what we have here in Germany. Okay, it's a 100 euro bill, okay, here in Germany. And so every country or every region has their own money.
But wait, he's looking for a definition of money?
Well, first of all, he wanted to know what money is. So the first step is showing what money is today. It's a little piece of paper. It's pretty strong, you can't even rip this thing.
Yes.
One day by mistake I put it in the washing machine. Unbelievable. It came out, intact. Talking about washing money. Anyways.
Well, I mean, it's cloth, I guess. It's not just paper.
It's not paper. It used to be paper, but no longer. Anyways, money can be anything, really. It can be anything, but there's a catch. Like today, you can use food as money. Maybe you've got a carrot and your neighbor has an apple and you like apples, he likes carrots. No problem. You make the exchange. And so money is anything you can use to exchange, to trade, essentially. That's, I think, the best definition for that. But after the global economy collapses, first of all, no one will accept money. There will be no trade. And yeah, whoever has food, the last thing you'll do in your life is trade it away. Okay, and just as an example, again, in the, you can say in the Paleolithic, where we still had Neanderthals and humans. Neanderthals didn't trade amongst themselves. We didn't trade amongst ourselves. Our forefathers, right? And no, in the jungle out there, in the plains, in a setting where you have in the wild, there is no trade. There is stealing, there is scavenging, but there is no trade. Not for food. Food is the number one thing. Look at any wild animal, and that's more or less how we behave. You get a hyena, you get a cheetah, or a leopard, or something like that. When they meet, let's say the cheetah hunted something. As soon as that hyena comes over, that cheetah runs away. He's not going to stand there and fight the hyena. He just lets whatever he caught there, and the hyena just takes it. And if the lion comes next, the hyena has to leave it, and it's the lion who gets it, and so on. It's the law of the strongest.
But hold on, we're talking about money, not.
Yeah, but I mean,
you said that anything that you can use to trade is money, but that's not correct. The whole point of money is money in itself has no use besides trade. Like using a carrot, that's bartering.
Where did I go wrong? I thought that's what
You said you could use carrots for money or food for money, but you can't. That's not money.
It is money.
By definition, because you can use carrots.
No, you can use it, but no, not necessarily, because it has an intrinsic value. Food.
That's what makes it not money.
No, but it is money, because I can also use gold not only to trade, but also to bang someone over the head, for that matter. I mean, it has some use. I can use it as a stone or whatever. So there is some use to other things as well.
But then wouldn't money?
I can use paper bills like this to light my fire. Light my cigarette.
You can find use to anything, but I think when we talk about money, we're talking about something that we primarily use.
Yeah, of course.
So obviously, when you start talking about carrot, using.
Yeah, but you could use it for, like, if you have a gazillion carrots. Let's say you're a farmer and you got gazillions of carrots and you got a surplus. You're not going to eat them all. Well, you do trade it, and that's essentially what big corporations do. They take all these.
Sell it.
They sell it, and essentially that's what they do. They're using it as money, because the guy gives you money, and what do you give him? Carrots, so he gets carrots. He's going to get money for that. So essentially, carrots converts into money. Some downward down the line, But my point here is that when the economy collapses and no other thing is important except food, keeping yourself alive.
That's the big difference. That's why
Yes.
that's why I wouldn't. If I were using the word money, I would equate it only with things that you only use for moneying, essentially trading. Like if you can't
Yeah.
really talk about carrots because the whole point of the theory is that when money has no value, carrots still do.
When money has no value, carrots still do. Yeah, carrots always have money, but yeah, again, gold can have value in a different way than for exchange. I mean, we can go on forever. That's why I prefer to say anything that you can exchange, anything that can be used as currency, to use that word, to trade. Can be used as money. I mean, if Fred Flintstone accepts rocks from the quarry, fine. I mean, if he likes that, I can't say no. I'm not going to allow you to. Here's a few rocks. Give me your dinosaur or whatever. Anyways, that's what money is. Money is a medium of exchange. Essentially, anything that can be used as exchange. Then a fellow asks another question or another issue. Yeah, it's a question. The events extinction he's referring to, you have deduced from your reasoning, will take place in how many generations? Well, again, here we do science, and that means that we're not going to give you a date. I don't have a date. I'm not an astrologer. I hope I'm a scientist. I try to be a scientist, and a scientist is a person who explains. In the case of physics, you explain a mechanism. And in the case of extinction, paleontology, we explain the extinction of species, a mechanism for extinction. And that's the sole purpose, at least as far as this channel goes. That's all we're concerned with, mechanisms of extinction. How did the dinosaurs die? How did the archosaurs die? How did the amphibians die?
We're interested in how the cookie cutter works.
Yeah, essentially, because the reason is we're going to extrapolate that to man. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to say, hey, if these animals could not overcome whatever got them, maybe man can't overcome, that same thing.
But isn't that outside of science, talking about the end of man because it hasn't happened yet?
And again, a lot of people say that. They say that's unscientific because, I mean, if we're talking about explanations, you can only explain the past, something consummated, something that happened.
Yeah, other animal extinctions.
Right. And what I'm doing with this, and I'm saying I go to the future. Okay? I'm looking to the past. I'm the Martians or the Klingons or whatever that came to Earth after we're all dead. Okay? And so they go through the rock and they find, amphibians here, mammal-like reptiles over there. They find archosaurs, they find dinosaurs, and then they say, oh, here's this we'll call it a mammal, and it's a two-footed mammal. We'll call him human, and he died also. He disappeared. Now, how could he have disappeared? Well, maybe he disappeared just like all the rest of them. And so you do a little study. You're a Klingon. You do a little study. You find out how all these animals disappeared. You find a cookie cutter, and it turns out that man, this animal you found in the 21st century still, he died for the same reasons, because he couldn't avoid the same things that all the other animals could not avoid. And that is food. What I'm saying is food. Once you get the cookie cutter, it's not that we're saying, I'm going to make a prediction. It's got nothing to do with a prediction. When we focus on the word prediction or, trying to find out what date it's going to happen, then you're in the wrong business. That's religion. We're not talking about that. We're saying, what is the mechanism that man cannot avoid? That's the issue we're concerned with. And I'm saying it's the same mechanism all the other animals could not avoid. So I'm extrapolating it to man and saying, look, humans are going to die for the same reason. And what's that reason? We're saying it's going to be food, primarily food. And just very generally, if you have no food, I think we can, if God comes with his magic wand to earth and wipes out all the food all of a sudden for whatever reason he has, I'm sure we're all going to die. So it is a mechanism that guarantees extinction if all food disappears. That's all I'm saying. So it's not like you can say, I'm not going to consider it because it's not a mechanism of extinction. Yeah, if you wipe out all the food that we eat, it is a guaranteed mechanism, at least as a mechanism. Whether you believe that that's how it's going to happen is a separate issue. But it is a guaranteed mechanism. That's my argument there.
The question is, if all the food went away, how would it happen? Then you take one step further, right?
That's, I think, one of the next questions. Yeah, people want to know how that happens. And I'm saying, I'm not going to get to that point. Because right now I'm having a big problem getting people to believe that if money disappears, food disappears.
Is it a belief thing or just...
No, it's not a belief. I'm saying we produce the food and we produce it only because of money. In other words, the corporations produce it for money, for profits. Agricultural corporations, right? They produce it, they send it to a manufacturer. Maybe it's the same corporation for all we know. They manufacture, they box it, they cut it, they do whatever they have to do. They give it to the shipper, sometimes the same company also. The distributor, he goes out there, gives it to the outlets, to the supermarkets. And here we come. We are the workers at the agricultural corporation. We get a salary, okay, for doing our great work as farmers or whatever out there in the field. And we go to the supermarket and we buy the same food we produced. Essentially, it's a circle. And what keeps that whole circle going, the mechanism or the system going, is money. It's essentially we're trading money for whatever's coming to us. So we give money and we receive some good. It could be a service, could be a good, could be a non-food good or whatever. But the point is you give money for that and the other guy gives money to the other guy and the other guy gives money to the other guy. Without money, that whole chain disappears. And we don't care if computers are not around. We don't care if other things are not around. I don't know, furniture, house, etc. We cannot live without food, like we cannot live without drink. We cannot live without breathing. Those are essentials. And so that's the mechanism. I'm saying if money disappears, food disappears. And I have people challenging me. I don't know if they're getting ahead of themselves and they're saying, well, how is money going to disappear? That's not the issue. We're still not there. We're saying that if money disappears, food disappears.
Yeah, let's concede that issue first.
And right now, I can't get people to understand that. A lot of people say, no, that's not going to happen. Some people say, I'm going to grow my own food. That's one of the arguments. Another one is saying, well, I'm going to trade my car for food. You know, they have all these arguments. And so they say food is not going to disappear only because money disappears or some medium of exchange, some currency is going to disappear. And I'm saying, yes, once money is no more, food is no more because the source, the people who have to produce it, have no incentive to produce it anymore. So right now I'm stuck there, and I'm going to be stuck there for a while because I still don't see light at the end of the tunnel. A lot of people are still complaining about that. And also, you're welcome to ask questions at the end of the show regarding that. Okay, let me continue here. Meanwhile, another fellow says, and he put this comment. It's a lengthy comment, and I think he quoted it. I mean, it's got quotations, so I believe it's not his, but I don't know this for sure. He just put this up there. And it's an interesting comment. He says, in a mature urban society, the economic value of children declines. He's going to say that why we don't produce children, okay, today, the new generations. The Z generation, I guess you call it.
Yeah.
In fact, children turn from instruments of production into objects of massive consumption. Children need to be supported much longer, sometimes into their mid-20s. In fact, some people up to the 40s and 50s today. Children cost a tremendous amount of money with limited return, if any, for parents. Thus, people have fewer children. Birth control merely provided the means for what was an economic necessity. Okay, so he's saying that, or whoever wrote this says that we're having fewer children, and that birth control only provided the means. Now we are able. A woman that is pregnant can get rid of the baby, or we use all kinds of contraceptives, etc. So that we don't have children. We don't have the product from love. Okay. For most people, a family, but what that did was simply fill an economic necessity. For most people, a family of 8 children will be a financial catastrophe. Absolutely. Who in the city can really have 8 children? I mean, there must be 1 or 2 people out there in the world, but in the cities, children are disappearing like what could it be? It could be like money from a bank.
Disappearing like a fart in a fan factory.
Therefore, women have 2 children or fewer on average. As a result, the population contracts. Of course, there are other reasons for this decline, but urban industrialism is at the heart of it. And he continues, he says, for the first time in 500 years, this situation is reversing itself. First, fewer humans are being born, okay, which means the labor force will contract and the prices of all sorts of labor will increase. This is what he's predicting, okay, whoever wrote this. Capital, understood in its precise meaning as the means of production, will be in surplus while labor will be at a premium. The economic plant in place now and created over the next generation will not evaporate it. At most, it is underutilized, and that means a decline in the return on capital. Put in terms of the analog money, it means that we will be entering a period where money will be cheap and labor increasingly expensive. Okay, so that's the argument. I don't know. I've got a different take on that. Okay, and on the fact that labor will become expensive. Okay, I think it's going to go in a different direction altogether. I think labor will be cheap because we will not need labor. We will not need labor in manufacturing as men are replaced by machines, by automation, etc. We're already implementing a lot of not only technology, but also innovation in the service world. Banks have tellers. We used to have people. You go to the airport and you do your check-in by yourself. There's a lot of people, cashiers, you check your own food. So there's a lot of services out there that used to be done by like human hands and human minds. And that's no longer true. You dropped out of high school, you could go and be a cashier at the local store, and that little by little is becoming a smaller world, and the new generations will not be able to do that. And so the question, where will they go? Will they have to get a PhD just to work flipping burgers, or what's the deal here?
We got a burger flipping machine now.
Believe it, it's going to be more accurate. Maybe the temperature, everything. You're going to have a little robot that turns.
I think the part that really scared me when I first saw it were the self-checkout machines at Walmart.
Yeah.
When I saw that was when I was like, oh, even them, because usually all the jobs, you don't really see the jobs that go away. That was the first time where, as a consumer, you see for the first time that someone's job got taken away. Like if there's a truck driver or something that gets his job taken away by a self-driving car, you never saw the truck driver in the first place, so you don't notice it. But as a consumer, if you go there and you see the self-checkout machine, you're like, what?
How about the self-driving car? There's
less
no
humans to talk to.
chauffeur.
At some point, the shelves are shelving themselves, and you're like, are there any humans working here?
Yeah. So we're replacing man with machine in a lot of places. I'm not saying that we're not creating other jobs, but a lot of the jobs that we're creating, again, I've talked about this in the past, that we're creating a lot of internet jobs. Everybody's an entrepreneur going into the internet and saying, oh, I'm just going to sell something, information or whatever. And that's not really in the same line as we had services in the past, where someone would cut your grass or your hair or whatever. That's real, or distribute delivery, which still is strong, But those were jobs where humans are required still. Whereas when you get into internet, it's like, you have your own company. You open up your own shop, and what do you sell? Are you selling bananas? Are you selling computers? What are you selling? No, you're selling sometimes information. Like me here, what do? I talk.
Like a teacher.
Yeah, so there's a lot of that going on. People giving information or advice on how to invest your money. There's a lot of stuff out there.
One topic that doesn't get talked about, which is very important for this whole Corona thing, is with necessary jobs.
Yeah, that's another one.
That was a big one, where there's a lot of jobs that, like, you always talk about the one where, like, if you get paid to wave your hand back and forth, is that really a job?
Singing?
Yeah.
Guy
Is
sings,
it
okay.
necessary? But, I mean, on some level, maybe some guy doesn't kill himself because he heard a song, so, I don't know, maybe it saved his life. I don't know, there's a lot of, tangents, but, yeah, but Corona brought up this question of, in German, there's a term for it. It's something like infrastructure necessary jobs, something like that.
Whoa. Anyways, I don't know. I think work will become cheaper. Labor will become cheaper. And one of the problems there is that with the devaluation of money, okay, so you have money being devaluated, okay, because governments are producing more money to cover holes, to cover debt, to cover, lately, a lot of socialism, helping people out that because of Corona, etc. And so, governments are creating money. And that's not only the U.S. government. Every government out there is creating money right now. Lots of money. What that does is dilute the real value of the worker. If on top of that you see companies closing down and replacing man with machine, and a lot of that stuff going on, when you put it all together, the price of labor is going to go down.
Wait, but that's not entirely true, is it? Because if the price of labor that still must be done with humans, is that
there
what
is
we're
some
talking
labor.
about?
Well, there is a lot of labor done by humans, and of course that's going to continue for a while. But the issue here is that I'm saying that with the devaluation of money, together with the fact that we are not needing certain laborers, or that labor is becoming cheap and companies can select who they're going to give a salary
I think
to.
that's a big thing. The reason why labor will get cheaper is because there's so many people that get laid off that there's going to be more people clamoring for the same leftover jobs.
And that's my point. And so the issue here is that double whammy will get to a point where people will barely be able to make it to the end of the month.
It's already like that.
Yeah, and people will barely be more and more. The point here is that more and more people will be able to will barely be able to get to the month. There won't be any disposable income, so you won't be able to go out there and say, "Oh, I'm going to buy a car." No, because fewer and fewer people will be able to afford such a luxury, and so the market for, just an example, for cars will reduce. That means that the company that produces cars will have to produce fewer cars. They'll need less labor, and the cycle continues. Okay, it's just a round. Okay, so that's in general terms what I'm proposing here. Okay, and just reminding people that we do, let me put it over here, we do Extinction 101 before we do 102, and Extinction 101 is human, past animals, animals who died millions of years ago for mass extinction, right? And then we do humans. So first tell me how the animals in the past died. That means you're an expert on extinction. Okay, we're all experts on man. We know how man's going to die. Some people say we won't die. But where I always find trouble is finding people who understand how animals died in the past. See, that's where you have to tell
That's
me.
because isn't that because they kind of chalk it up to asteroids all the time?
Well, they give you all these catastrophic theories. You know, volcanoes, supernovas, climate could be, asteroids. But the issue is that none of those mechanisms can explain selectivity. And that's why I always tear those down. Anyone who comes with a catastrophic theory has to tell me how Mother Nature selected this species and left the other one alive. Not only on land, but in the air and in the sea.
Well, don't you see the asteroid shattered and it sniped exactly all the Tyrannosaurus?
No. The way they say it, they use several mechanisms. They all use several. They can't use one.
Where it hits and then the volcanoes explode and then the ashes make it rain.
You have acid rain for one. And that, how did the animals under the sea die? You know, like in the case of the Cretaceous, the reptiles. Acidity. And they couldn't take it, and the sharks and the fish could. You know, and so on. And how did the pterosaurs die up there? Well, the birds continue flying, the eagles and so on, whatever. This is what you got to explain. And catastrophic theories cannot explain that. And aside from that, you have this nebular hypothesis, so to speak. In other words, you have this cloud that surrounds the planet and when the asteroid hit, and so it blocked out the sun. And they say that plants died. Well, why did it kill only the conifers and leave the angiosperms alive? That's you got to explain that, and they don't.
Selective.
Extinction. It's a selectivity. That's what a catastrophic theory cannot explain.